The spark of rebellion. The night was cold and unforgiving on the mining colony of Epsilon Horizon. Dr. Kai Rodriguez stood at the observation window, his weathered hands clasped behind his back, watching the distant asteroid fields shimmer under the pale starlight. The colony's environmental systems hummed softly, a constant reminder of humanity's tenuous existence on the galactic frontier. A sudden communication alert broke the silence. Kai's assistant, Zara Okoro, rushed into the room, her dark eyes wide with a mixture of fear and urgency. "Director Rodriguez," she said, her voice trembling, "the Syndicate patrol ships have just transmitted their latest directive." Kai turned, his salt and pepper beard catching the dim light. He knew what was coming before Zara could speak. The Galactic Syndicate had been tightening its grip on human colonies for months, each new regulation more restrictive than the last. "They're implementing total resource control," Zara continued, pulling up the holographic transmission. "Any mineral extraction beyond their mandated quotas will result in immediate colony sanctions." The directive was clear. The mining colonies, which had sustained human expansion into deep space, would now be reduced to little more than resource extraction camps. Families would starve. Communities would collapse. Across the colony, similar scenes were playing out. In the workers' quarters, Marcus Donovan, a veteran mining engineer, listened to the transmission with a growing sense of rage. He had lost his wife to the harsh conditions of space exploration years ago. Now, the Syndicate wanted to take everything else. "This ends now," Marcus muttered, his calloused fingers tracing the photograph of his late wife, Elena. She had always been the rebellious one, the one who believed that humanity could stand up to any oppressor. In the communication hub, a young network specialist named Nika Petrova was doing more than just listening. Her fingers flew across holographic interfaces, tracing communication pathways, identifying vulnerabilities in the Syndicate's vast network infrastructure. "They think we're just going to comply," Nika whispered to herself, a dangerous glint in her eyes. Years of being underestimated had prepared her for this moment. The Syndicate saw humans as nothing more than disposable labor, a resource to be exploited. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Back in the colony's central administration, Kai Rodriguez made a decision that would change everything. He activated a secure communication channel, a network built over years of quiet preparation. The faces of colony leaders from across human-controlled space flickered to life, each one tired, each one angry. "The time for diplomacy is over," Kai announced, his voice steady and resolute. "The Syndicate believes they can crush our spirit. They believe we will submit." A chorus of murmurs of agreement filled the communication space. "We will show them the true meaning of human resilience," Kai continued. "Not through brute force, but through something they cannot comprehend. We will dismantle their control, piece by piece, system by system." Marcus Donovan, who had been patched into the communications, spoke next. "We have resources they don't know about, technological adaptations, communication networks they can't track." Nika Petrova's voice followed, calm and calculated. "I've identified multiple points of systemic vulnerability in their communication and resource management protocols." The plan took shape quickly. It wasn't a military strategy in the traditional sense. This was something more subtle, more insidious, a systematic deconstruction of the Syndicate's control mechanisms. Small acts of resistance would begin immediately: supply line disruptions, communication network infiltrations, economic pressure points carefully identified and exploited. As the meeting concluded, a sense of unified purpose filled the space. This was more than a rebellion. This was a declaration of human independence. Outside the colony, the asteroid fields continued to shimmer, indifferent to the revolution about to unfold. Humanity was about to show the Galactic Syndicate that oppression had consequences, and those consequences would be unexpected, strategic, and devastating. The spark of rebellion had been lit, and nothing would be the same again. Strategic counterattack. The first wave of resistance began not with weapons, but with data. Nika Petrova's fingers danced across holographic interfaces in a hidden communication node deep within Epsilon Horizon's underground infrastructure. Around her, a team of network specialists worked in synchronized silence, their faces illuminated by streams of cascading code. "Syndicate supply route vulnerabilities confirmed," whispered Jin Wei, a former corporate security analyst who now dedicated his skills to human resistance. His eyes narrowed as complex algorithmic patterns revealed intricate weaknesses in the Syndicate's logistical networks. Across the colony, Marcus Donovan was preparing a different kind of assault. In a retrofitted mining warehouse, he oversaw the conversion of industrial equipment into precision disruption tools. Massive drilling machines originally designed for asteroid extraction were being recalibrated into sophisticated communication jammers and network infiltration devices. Dr. Kai Rodriguez moved between preparation zones, his strategic mind orchestrating a complex symphony of resistance. He understood that their fight wasn't about overwhelming force, but about strategic precision. "The Syndicate expects traditional warfare," Kai explained to a group of colony leaders gathered in a secure briefing room. "They anticipate military confrontation. We'll give them something entirely different." The plan was multi-layered and intricate. Instead of direct military engagement, they would systematically undermine the Syndicate's control mechanisms. Disrupting supply routes, creating communication interference, and developing adaptive technologies that could outmaneuver the oppressive galactic administration. Zara Okoro entered with a series of encrypted data packets. "We've identified 3 critical trade route junctions that are vulnerable to strategic disruption," she reported, projecting holographic star charts that highlighted potential intervention points. Each intervention was carefully calculated. A slight communication delay here, a minor logistics redirection there. Nothing overtly aggressive, but enough to create cascading inefficiencies within the Syndicate's vast bureaucratic machine. In a separate facility, Elena Rodriguez, Kai's daughter and a brilliant quantum communications engineer, worked on something revolutionary. Her team was developing adaptive communication technologies that could slip through Syndicate monitoring systems like digital ghosts. "Traditional encryption is predictable," Elena explained to her team. "We're creating communication protocols that are essentially quantum puzzles. By the time they realize a message has been transmitted, it will have already transformed." The resistance wasn't just technological. Economic strategists like Professor Hiroshi Nakamura were developing complex economic counter-strategies. By identifying and exploiting minute vulnerabilities in the Syndicate's trading algorithms, they could create economic pressure points that would gradually destabilize the entire system. "Think of it like acupuncture," Hiroshi told Kai during a strategy session. "We're not attacking the body directly, we're targeting specific pressure points that will cause systemic disruption." As night fell on Epsilon Horizon, the first wave of strategic interventions began. Communication networks subtly redirected, supply routes mysteriously delayed, economic transactions experiencing microscopic but deliberate irregularities. The Syndicate wouldn't immediately recognize it as an attack. It would feel more like a series of inexplicable, frustrating inefficiencies, and that was precisely the point. Marcus Donovan watched the initial reports come in, a grim smile crossing his weathered face. Years of mining had taught him patience. Strategic disruption was an art form, and humanity was about to become its master. "They think they know how we'll fight," Marcus muttered to himself. "They have no idea what's coming." In the vast, cold expanse of space, the first subtle threads of resistance began to weave themselves into a tapestry of unexpected rebellion. The Syndicate might control the stars, but humanity was about to show them that control was an illusion. The counterattack had begun, quietly, precisely, inexorably. Economic warfare. The first tremors of economic disruption began in the most unexpected of places. Deep within the Syndicate's central financial hub, a series of seemingly random transactions started to ripple through the system. Most would have appeared insignificant micro-fluctuations that any standard algorithm would dismiss as statistical noise. Dr. Ren Holloway, a brilliant economic strategist exiled from the syndicate's central banking system, watched the data streams with calculated precision. Her workspace was a marvel of holographic displays and quantum computing interfaces, each screen alive with cascading financial data. "See how it moves," she murmured to her team, a group of economic rebels who had been planning this moment for years. "We're not breaking the system, we're re-architecting it." The strategy was elegant in its complexity. Small transactions, carefully orchestrated across multiple economic zones, began to create subtle pressure points in the syndicate's vast financial network. A shipping manifest here would be slightly altered. A trade route there would experience a microscopic delay. Credit valuations would fluctuate by fractions of a percentage point. Nearby, Victor Reyes, a former syndicate logistics analyst turned resistance operative, monitored communication networks. His job was to ensure that these economic interventions remained undetected, creating a web of strategic disruption that would be almost impossible to trace. "They're so confident in their control," Victor said, watching a series of financial algorithms dance across his screens. "They've forgotten that economic systems are living organisms, and organisms can be infected." Back on Epsilon Horizon, Professor Hiroshi Nakamura continued to coordinate the broader economic strategy. He understood that true economic warfare wasn't about destruction, but about creating systemic uncertainty. "Watch the ripple effects," Hiroshi explained to a group of resistance strategists. "We're introducing controlled chaos. Each intervention is designed to create a cascade of unintended consequences." The first major target was the syndicate's interstellar credit system. By introducing subtle variations in currency exchange rates across different star systems, the resistance began to create economic pressure that would be almost impossible to track or counter. Elena Rodriguez worked alongside her team, developing quantum encryption technologies that would allow these economic interventions to slip through the syndicate's monitoring systems. Her communication protocols were like digital ghosts, present, yet undetectable. "Traditional encryption is about hiding," Elena would explain. "We're creating something that doesn't just hide, it adapts, it transforms." In the lower levels of the resistance's hidden base, Nika Petrova continued her relentless network infiltration. Her team had developed AI-driven algorithms that could predict and exploit the syndicate's economic vulnerabilities faster than any traditional monitoring system could detect. The beauty of their approach was its subtlety. The syndicate wouldn't recognize this as an attack. To them, it would feel like a series of inexplicable economic anomalies. A shipping route slightly delayed, a credit valuation experiencing microscopic fluctuations, supply chains experiencing unexplained inefficiencies. Dr. Kai Rodriguez oversaw the entire operation, his strategic mind seeing the broader picture. This wasn't just about resistance. This was about demonstrating the fundamental flaw in the syndicate's approach to governance. "Control is an illusion," Kai often told his team. "True power lies in adaptability." As the first week of economic interventions concluded, the initial results began to emerge. Syndicate financial reports started showing unexplained inconsistencies. Trade routes experienced subtle but persistent disruptions. Supply chain algorithms began to show signs of unexpected stress. Marcus Donovan reviewed the initial reports, a grim smile crossing his face. "They have no idea," he muttered, "what's about to hit them." In the vast, cold expanse of space, the first waves of economic rebellion continued to spread. Quietly, precisely, inexorably changing the fundamental dynamics of galactic control. The syndicate believed they understood economic warfare. Who? Technological breakthrough. The abandoned research station hung in the darkness of the Orion void, a testament to forgotten scientific ambitions. Dr. Aria Valdez moved carefully through its corridors, her environmental suit casting a soft blue glow across dust-covered equipment and dormant research terminals. Preliminary scans are showing something extraordinary, she called out to her team. Dr. Curran Maida, a quantum physics specialist, adjusted a complex array of sensors that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. This was no ordinary research mission. In the wake of the Syndicate's oppression, humanity's most brilliant minds had been forced underground, pushed to the edges of explored space. And now they were about to change everything. The station had been abandoned decades ago, a failed experimental facility that the Syndicate had deemed worthless. But Dr. Valdez and her team saw potential where others saw only failure. Hidden within the station's forgotten laboratories was a breakthrough that could alter the entire balance of power. Quantum entanglement drive, Curran muttered, running his hand along a prototype engine component. They said it was impossible. The technology they were developing was more than just a new form of propulsion. It was a complete reimagining of how humanity could move through space, communicate, and ultimately resist. In a secure communication hub on Epsilon Horizon, Elena Rodriguez received the first encrypted transmission. Her fingers flew across holographic interfaces, decoding the complex quantum communication protocols. "This changes everything," Elena whispered to herself. The quantum entanglement drive represented a fundamental shift in space travel and communication. Unlike the Syndicate's massive, resource-intensive starships, this technology allowed for instantaneous communication and nearly undetectable transportation. A ship could exist in multiple locations simultaneously, phase through traditional scanning systems, and communicate across vast distances without any detectable transmission. Victor Reyes, monitoring the project from a hidden communications center, understood the strategic implications immediately. "It's not just a technological breakthrough," he explained to a group of resistance leaders. "It's a complete reimagining of space warfare." Dr. Ren Holloway approached the project from an economic perspective. The Syndicate's entire control mechanism is based on their ability to monitor and restrict movement, she analyzed. This technology removes that fundamental constraint. The breakthrough wasn't just about a new type of engine or communication system. It was about fundamentally challenging the Syndicate's understanding of technological possibility. Marcus Donovan oversaw the practical implementation. A lifetime of mining had taught him that theory meant nothing without practical application. His team was already working on modifying existing spacecraft, finding ways to integrate the new quantum technologies into current human infrastructure. "We're not just building a new technology," Marcus told his engineering team. "We're building our path to freedom." Nika Petrova's network infiltration team played a crucial role. They had to ensure that information about the breakthrough remained completely hidden from Syndicate intelligence networks. Every communication was encrypted. Every data transfer was a quantum puzzle that would be impossible to crack. Dr. Kai Rodriguez understood the broader implications. This wasn't just a technological solution. It was a statement of human potential. "They underestimated us," Kai said during a strategy meeting. "They believed they could control us by controlling our movement, our communication, our resources. We're about to show them how wrong they are." The first full-scale test of the quantum entanglement drive was scheduled in absolute secrecy. A modified research vessel, virtually undetectable, would attempt to traverse a section of space that the Syndicate considered completely monitored and controlled. As the countdown began, a sense of anticipation filled the hidden research facilities. This was more than a technological test. This was humanity's declaration of technological independence. The ship's engines hummed to life, a sound unlike anything the Syndicate had ever heard. Quantum fields began to fluctuate, space itself seeming to bend around the vessel. And then, in a moment that would later be spoken of in hushed, reverent tones, the ship simply vanished. The Syndicate's era of control was about to end. Humanity's true potential was about to be unleashed. Galactic turning point. The void of space erupted in a silent, devastating dance of technological warfare. Commodore Lena Rodriguez, Elena's older sister, stood on the bridge of the quantum horizon, the first ship fully equipped with the revolutionary quantum entanglement drive. Her hands remained steady on the navigation controls, her eyes scanning the holographic displays that showed the approaching Syndicate blockade. Tactical assessment, she called out to her co-pilot, Commander Derek Chen. Derek's fingers danced across multiple sensor arrays. Syndicate fleet composition: 3 heavy cruisers, 2 orbital defense platforms, multiple fighter squadrons. Traditional tactics would suggest we're outnumbered 10-1. A slight smile crossed Lena's lips. Traditional tactics. The Syndicate had positioned their fleet across a critical trade corridor, a chokepoint they believed would be impossible to breach. For centuries, such a blockade would have meant certain destruction for any opposing force. But humanity had changed the rules of engagement. Dr. Ren Holloway's economic warfare had already weakened the Syndicate's supply lines. Victor Ray's intelligence networks had provided precise information about the fleet's positioning. And now, the quantum entanglement technology developed by Dr. Aria Valdez and Dr. Curran Maida was about to demonstrate its true potential. Quantum field stabilizing, Derek reported. The ship didn't move in any traditional sense. Instead, reality seemed to fold around them, space itself becoming fluid. In the Syndicate Command Center, Admiral Krasth watched his monitoring systems with growing confusion. One moment, the human vessel was positioned exactly where their targeting systems predicted. The next moment, it simply wasn't. Tracking systems malfunction, a junior officer reported, panic creeping into his voice. But it wasn't a malfunction. The quantum horizon was simultaneously existing in multiple locations, phasing through the Syndicate's defensive grid like a ghost. Lena's voice was calm as she coordinated with other human vessels. Phase 1 of Operation Quantum Breach is underway. All units, execute synchronization protocol. Across the blockade, multiple human ships began to appear and disappear, their movements impossible to predict or intercept. It wasn't about destroying the Syndicate fleet. It was about proving the absolute futility of their defensive strategies. Back on Epsilon Horizon, Dr. Kai Rodriguez watched the live tactical feeds. Beside him, Nika Petrova continued to manage the complex communication networks that supported the mission. It's not just a military operation, Kai explained. It's a demonstration. We're showing them that their concept of control is obsolete. Marcus Donovan, who had overseen the ship's engineering modifications, understood the psychological warfare at play. Every moment they can't predict our movement is a victory, he muttered. The Syndicate fleet began to break formation. Panic was a strong word, but confusion reigned. Their most advanced tracking systems were rendered useless. Weapons couldn't lock onto targets that existed in quantum flux. Commander Derek Chen highlighted the strategic brilliance. We're not trying to destroy them. We're demonstrating that destruction is irrelevant. We can move through their defenses at will. Suddenly, the quantum horizon appeared directly in the center of the Syndicate's primary command ship. For a brief moment, they were close enough to transmit a message. Lena's voice cut through their communication systems. This is a demonstration. Continue to oppress humanity, and next time we won't be so gentle. And then they were gone. The entire engagement lasted less than 12 minutes. No weapons were fired, no ship was destroyed, yet the psychological impact was total. In the Syndicate's high command, Admiral Krasth stared at the tactical reports in disbelief. This wasn't just a military defeat. This was a fundamental challenge to everything they understood about warfare, technology, and control. Humanity had just rewrote the rules of galactic conflict. As the quantum horizon phased back to its staging point, Lena Rodriguez allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. This was more than a battle. This was a turning point. The galaxy would never be the same again. Unexpected alliances. The aftermath of the quantum breakthrough rippled across the galaxy like a silent storm. In the chambers of the Syndicate High Council, silence reigned. Admiral Krasth stood before the assembled leadership, his report hanging in the air like a condemned prisoner. Holographic displays showed the complete failure of their most advanced defensive systems, rendered obsolete by humanity's quantum technology. "We are facing more than a rebellion," Kraz declared, his voice a low rumble of frustration and grudging respect. "We are facing a fundamental reimagining of technological possibility." What the Syndicate failed to understand was that humanity's true strength lay not in their technology, but in their ability to forge connections where others saw only division. Dr. Aria Valdez discovered this truth in the most unexpected of places. During a covert diplomatic mission to the Zatrine Confederacy, a species long oppressed by the Syndicate, she presented something more powerful than weapons, a vision of collaborative survival. "We're not offering an alliance against the Syndicate," Aria explained to the Zatrine High Chancellor. "We're offering a partnership of mutual liberation." The Zatrine had been marginalized for centuries, their technological advancements suppressed, their planetary resources systematically stripped by Syndicate control. They had watched humanity's resistance with a mixture of curiosity and hope. Victor Reyes had spent months carefully cultivating these diplomatic channels. Intelligence gathering had revealed deep fractures within the Syndicate's supposedly monolithic control structure. Multiple species and planetary systems were ready for change. They just needed a catalyst. On Epsilon Horizon, Dr. Kai Rodriguez oversaw the broader strategic implications. "This isn't about defeating the Syndicate," he told his core leadership team. "This is about creating a new galactic paradigm." Nika Petrova's communication networks became the nervous system of this emerging alliance. Quantum-encrypted channels connected resistance cells, oppressed planetary systems, and forward-thinking leaders across multiple species. The Quantum Horizon, commanded by Lena Rodriguez, began a series of strategic demonstrations. Rather than military conquests, they showed potential allies something revolutionary, technology that could be shared, not hoarded. Quantum communication relays that could connect distant worlds. Transportation technologies that could liberate trade and communication. Dr. Ren Holloway developed economic models that demonstrated how true collaboration could replace the Syndicate's exploitative control mechanisms. Marcus Donovan's engineering teams adapted technologies to be universally compatible, breaking down the technological barriers that had kept species divided. "We're not building a human empire," Marcus would explain to skeptical planetary leaders. "We're creating a collaborative network." The Zatrine were the first to fully commit. Their advanced biological engineering, combined with human quantum technologies, created breakthrough solutions to long-standing galactic challenges. Medical technologies that could cure generations of genetic suppression. Communication systems that could bridge linguistic and cultural divides. Elena Rodriguez led a team developing universal translation and communication protocols that went beyond mere language. They created frameworks for genuine understanding. The Syndicate watched in growing horror as their carefully constructed control mechanisms began to dissolve. It wasn't a military defeat. It was something far more dangerous, a complete reimagining of galactic social structures. Admiral Kraz understood this before most of his colleagues. In a private communication intercepted by human intelligence networks, he was heard saying, "They're not conquering, they're converting." As the alliance grew, it became clear that humanity's true weapon was not their quantum technology, their economic strategies, or their military capabilities. It was their ability to imagine a different future, to see potential where others saw only conflict. Dr. Kai Rodriguez reflected on this during a strategy meeting. "The Syndicate believed control was about force," he said. "We're proving that true power comes from connection." The galaxy stood at a turning point. The old systems were crumbling. A new possibility was emerging not through conquest, but through collaboration. Humanity had started this journey as a species fighting for survival. They were ending it by offering something far more powerful, a vision of mutual liberation. The revolution was just beginning.